All right, so here it is. The Jags just released Zay Jones, Jaguars wide receiver. So there's the news of the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I know you. I think this is a little bit of a problem we have in Jacksonville. We're like, screw Zay. Like, we're good. Like, this is a guy that has a lot of depth. Just saving $4 million. Like, he can still get the job done, in my opinion. I value Zay more than others people. I know your view is, hey, where's he going to even play? Like, let him go. They're doing right by the guy, most likely. But, I mean, try to do right by the football team. I know they needed some more help at wide receiver last year, even though we thought they were 7 deep when the season started at wide receiver. Yeah. So this surprises me this early. Again, I always think that he has a very good relationship with Trevor. I know that doesn't change everything. You think Gabe Davis, Zay Jones, very much alike, and this might be an indication that they are. Yeah. But the Jaguars just lose a guy who had a career year a couple years ago, and it was a big part of, I think, the development of Trevor Lawrence over the last couple of years.
Yeah, obviously when Zay Jones was healthy, he obviously made a big difference to this team, and I think Calvin Ridley kind of got a boost when Zay Jones came back a little bit. Now, you know, when you bring in Gabe Davis, a guy who I feel like can do a lot of the same things, you kind of get, you know, you're kind of the odd man out, if you will. And then Brian Thomas Jr. was kind of the writing on the wall for me. So I'm not surprised at all. I mean, I guess really the only thing I'm maybe surprised about a little bit is the fact you couldn't get any capital for him whatsoever.
Yeah,
but
it's $11 million hit. And again, I think the dead money versus what you actually save is like, so the Jags now even have more money on the cap.
Yeah.
Like, they've still got plenty of money on the cap, but they do lose $11 million off that.
Yeah, but my whole point is, I mean, there's a team out there right now that needs a Zay Jones.
Probably, yeah.
You know, and I mean, could you have got a 6th round, 7th? I mean, once again, do you even want that anymore? Because we have so many of those teams like year in and year out. So maybe not, but he'll catch on someplace else. You know, I just think here, and you have like guys like Parker Washington who are on young, you still want to get a good look at as well. So I just didn't think he fit anymore when you drafted your 1st round receiver, and it is what it is from Zay Jones.
So you're not surprised at all?
No, not at all. I mean, the only thing I'm surprised about a little bit is the fact you couldn't get anything for him. But once again, I don't really know the market right now for a 2 or a 3 wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm not surprised they didn't get anything.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not. That doesn't surprise me.
I thought we had some like off the field issues coming down the pipe or something, Brent.
Well, I honestly, I think this is bigger news than more other people think. In a lot of ways, I think it's bigger news because I didn't see it coming right away. Basically, they cut Joey Sly too. So this is another move they made. So they're basically saying, hey, Cam Little, this is your job as kicker.
How long was Joey Sly here for?
I don't even think he hit the practice field. But, you know, the Jags signed a bunch of undrafted free agents. And as I look at their full list, a lot of people know the names by now that if you're really locked in on this, 4 wide receivers they're bringing in as undrafted free agents. They do have Parker Washington. They do have guys like Elijah Cook still there. They've got... obviously, the Gabe Davises and the Christian Kirks, and getting Brian Thomas Jr. So what I guess I don't understand is this more of a move to say, hey, we're going to do business right by Zay, or we just don't need him. Like, it's just not going to factor in. We don't need him. We'll save a few bucks here or there. We just upgraded from Zay Jones in the draft and free agency.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and Zay Jones wasn't going to be a starting wide receiver. So he was more than likely, unless an injury occurred, was going to be on the bench. And yeah, I get like you want to keep guys for depth purposes, and that's fine and everything. But I mean, I feel like this is more of doing right by Zay Jones than anything. Where it's like if you can't contribute here, go contribute someplace else. Because you know when he got here, like there was no issues, like there's no off-field issues. Seemed like a really great teammate, and obviously Trevor Lawrence liked him a lot as well. Now one could think, you know, how is Trevor Lawrence affected by this? Like, does he feel a certain type of way about it, or does he understand sometimes it's the nature of the business? Nevertheless, I think you're doing right by Zay Jones now by letting him go catch on a different team where you can actually get some playing time.
Yeah, I do think the Trevor part of this on Zay, I do think they're relatively tight. I don't know how tight. I think him and Christian Kirk might have even a tighter relationship. But I mean, like it's
tightness rankings. Brent.
I feel like we're
Trevor Lawrence the tightest.
We're like in middle school right here, right? Like who you hanging out with. But I do think they had a good relationship, and I think to me the relationship off the field is one thing. I think the relationship on the field was one of trust, right? And what we saw last year was like a little lack of trust, especially by the end of the year. But Calvin Ridley, there wasn't always that trust factor. And then by the end of the year, Parker Washington, a new guy getting in the mix, no trust. Like you just didn't know where the guy was going to be. You can kind of sense it. in the play. Zay just lost a year because of injury, but you could tell their offense was better and kind of clicked a little bit more when he was on the field, and it felt like there was a little bit more giddy up and confidence and fast play from Trevor when a guy like him was on the field. So, I mean, listen, that's the job every year. You got to go replace that. You got to go build the rapport. He's going to do that with Gabe Davis now. He's going to do that with Brian Thomas Jr. So by the time they get to September and October and just keeps getting better and better, that they're on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, are you surprised just from the standpoint of you thought he would make it through training camp, or you thought just like another body? Like, what? Because you seem more surprised than a lot of people, you were saying.
Yeah, I have to go on last year, where they needed more receiver help at the end of the day. Like the guys that we thought are coming out and everybody gets all excited about in camp, like the Elijah Cooks and stuff, which are fine and they're nice stories. But even Parker Washington, like those guys weren't reliable players. Parker Washington had some nice catches. He had 16 catches, I think, like in the last however many weeks. But he also ran wrong routes, and you could tell he wasn't on the same page. Like at the end of the day, they were without Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. And they had to rely on Evan Ingram mostly. Calvin Ridley ended up getting the benefit, but even there it was disjointed. So as you bring in Brian Thomas Jr., as you bring in Gabe Davis, these are going to be newcomers. I think they're veteran. Gabe especially is a veteran guy that will get on the same page pretty quick. But I just like the chemistry. I like the continuity. I like having the Kirks and the Ingrams and the Zay Jones part of it. And I felt like at the end of the day last year, you needed 4 or 5 deep at wide receiver. So it was okay to have that guy. Again, benefit of the football team. To me, with the money situation the way it is, keep Zay Jones. He's not going to be a bad teammate. He understands it. He's a veteran. Benefit of the business, maybe with conversations like, Zay, we're going to do right by you, give you an opportunity to go play. I understand that too.
But this is the same situation of Walker Little, Brent. And you say Walker Little, if you're not going to play him, if you're not going to start him, if you're going to waste his time, then get rid of him. I mean, this falls in line with the Zay Jones thing, even more with Zay Jones, just because Zay Jones has the resume. Zay Jones has been a starter for a while in the NFL. He has NFL starting experience. And to say, all right, man, like, you're going to probably sit in the pine a little bit until an injury. I mean, I don't think you're doing right by him, as opposed to Walker Little, who is more of a younger guy who hasn't had a lot of start. I mean, he has some starting experience, but nothing to the attributes of Zay Jones. And you're saying, well, get rid of Walker Little.
Okay, so then let's go put that hat on.
Okay.
Will they get rid of Walker Little? They just drafted a swing tackle.
Yeah.
I know it's in the 4th round. It wasn't like the high pick of Brian Thomas or the $13 million investment of a Gabe Davis. But business-wise, team-wise, draft-wise, if you marry that all together, I got to believe, to me, Walker Little, and I'm not trying to paint Walker Little as a bad guy here, because I don't think he is, and I don't know him well enough. I don't know that dynamic. I would just say, if I'm Team Walker Little, I'm like probably the most unhappy player in that locker room.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I'm Team Walker Little, I'm getting a back injury. I'm doing something, man. I'm trying to get out of Jacksonville. I'm trying to play. I agree with you here. But if I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars and I have depth at my disposal, I mean, sorry, man. You're not going anywhere unless something wants to offer you something. I mean, especially where they drafted him as well. Like, don't you think this weighs on Trent Baalke a little? I mean, Trent Baalke was responsible for or was an Urban Meyer pick. We don't.
Yeah, I think it was a Trent Baalke pick,
okay.
But yeah,
we don't know for sure.
But nevertheless, he might have an attachment there.
Yeah, but nevertheless, I mean, if I'm Trent Baalke, I have some sort of responsibility of bringing Walker Little here, and I feel like if you just let him go, if you just let him walk, then what is that saying about that draft class?
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the 2021 draft class. I mean, I would argue that Walker Little has been a huge part of this organization the last couple of years. Like, I really would. I don't think they make the playoffs without him coming in for Cam Robinson in 2022.
Sure.
I think he gave them a bunch of flexibility. I think he gave them a bunch of options. And again, how they look at him as right tackle, I never really looked at him as a guard. But left tackle, I think he's perfectly fine. He filled in admirably for Cam in the start of this past year. They were fine there with Cam. With Walker Little. So I think the difference here between a Zay Jones and a Walker Little is $11 million versus a rookie deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But I think the business side of it is like, okay, what are you doing with this guy? Like, are you just stocking him on a shelf?
Yeah.
And that's what they could have eventually done really with Zay Jones, not found a place for him. And I mean, I don't think they're going to move from Walker Little. I don't think they should. But I could see why Walker Little might ask.
No, I mean, listen, if I'm Walker Little or Walker Little's camp right now, it's like, make something happen, because I deserve to be a starter in this league. I think I have the skill set to do that, all of that. Now, if I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars, what am I going to say? I'm going to say, Walker, you're a depth player right now. You have a chance to earn a starting spot in training camp because you always got to dangle that that starting spot in front of every single player. So they practice hard and they're serviceable. But at the end of the day, I mean, once again, you're on your rookie contract, so you're here until further notice.
One other interesting note on the Zay Jones side, at least for now. And again, if you're just catching in, Zay Jones cut by the Jags, Joey Sly as well, the kicker, which makes room for Cam Little, which makes room for Brian Thomas, which makes room for Gabe Davis. Those kind of moves makes room for 4 undrafted free agents on the roster as well. Yeah. Does it make room for Jarvis Landry, who's working out with the team in a couple of weeks?
I mean, it could. Obviously, probably take a giant look at Jarvis Landry, but once again, I feel like Jarvis Landry is a guy who stays in the slot. And you have a slot receiver right now in Christian Kirk. Now, whether it's a depth play, maybe you want to take a look at him. But I see Jarvis Landry right now. If you bring him on the team, it's going to be a camp body, a serviceable camp body. And if he has a miraculous comeback and shines in the preseason, possibly making the roster. But I don't see him anything more than right now just trying to make a team for camp.
How do you like the Jags receiving core after Brian Thomas, after Christian Kirk, after Gabe Davis? Does it matter? Does that matter to you? Does it you got the 3 guys? Obviously, you got Ingram and you got ETN. Those are your 5 guys. Are you just? I mean, you got to hope for health anyway, or does that depth matter? Who else they have? It's Parker Washington and some of these young guys. I mean, Tim Jones. I think they re-signed Tim Jones, if I'm not mistaken. So there's another familiar face. Are those guys enough?
At the end of the day, Brent, I feel like this. If you have, 4 serviceable, I say serviceable, 4 pretty damn good, I think, and we'll see with Brian
receiving
Thomas
options,
Jr. Yeah. But, I mean, I was going to say 4 weapons, and then, you're going to add Brian Thomas Jr. to that. But I'm throwing Travis Etienne in the mix as well. I mean, not a lot of teams can say that right now in the league. So I'm happy with what they have. I think you go look around the league, any team that has depth at wide receiver, where if a receiver goes down, you got to call him up. So now you have your 4th string or your 4th wide receiver in there. I mean, he could be serviceable, but not a lot of teams like their 4th wide receivers. I'm not sure how to feel about Jacksonville's, but at the end of the day, if we're talking about the starters right now, yeah, I like what they have because they have a little bit of everything. You have your tight end, you have your wide receiver, you have your running back. So I think where it sits right now, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, I'm okay. Listen, I don't want to sound like this, oh my gosh, I don't have Zay Jones. It's just, I don't know. I feel a certain way about the Zay Jones thing, and I don't know. I kind of explained myself why. Steve Boston just said in a comment, and this is a fair comment, he, as a 4th receiver, really holds no special teams value either. Mm-hmm. He's not much of a special teams guy. But so, listen, I get it. It's part of the business. I'm not sitting here and saying I can't believe it. In fact, if you really want to piece it together, it's probably a good move on a lot of fronts. You give him a chance to go. You clear out the room a little bit so you don't have any clunkiness at all. And then you also... This move actually, in a way, corresponds with the report and the move that Landry is going to be on the field in May with the Jags, because let's just say he looks good. Sure. You can keep him for $1 million, like a veteran minimum type of deal, or you sign him to something very cheap. It's not going to be it's going to be a show me type thing for Landry. Let's just say it comes out roses and looks good and you wanted to use it. And again, we think kind of bigger name than game, most likely.
Right now.
But maybe he's not that different from Zay Jones for $10 million cheaper on the books.
I mean, maybe. And once again, it's just a thing with me. I feel like Landry is more of just that slot guy, Brent. So, he's not really a jack of all trades. You're not going to put him on the outside. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Landry in the past has had some success, as an X or anything. But, when I remember Jarvis Landry, I remember him in Miami and I remember him in Cleveland, was predominantly from the slot. And when you have, a slot specialist, we can call it, that's great and everything. And yes, Christian Kirk can move the outside, but I think Christian Kirk has benefited from playing in the slot. Yeah. So you kind of have a guy who fits in one box. Now, can he fit in that box and play at a very high level? Possibly. And would it be worth keeping him? Maybe. But I think it's going to be really hard to make a team make a final 53 if you can do one thing really well and that's about it at wide receiver.
Yeah, I would say this about the slot versus I just think these guys feel so interchangeable. Now, I understand they have their, like, where's Kirk best lined up in the slot, right? Landry might be the same way. Parker Washington might be the same way.
But we've seen Kirk play the outside, too, and have some moderate success.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you can say the same thing about Jarvis Landry. Like, once again, maybe I'm completely off base here, but I just feel like Landry's primarily a slot
Yeah, it's
guy.
probably where you remember him. But I guess my view is right now we've got Brian Thomas on the outside. When I talked to him on Friday, he kind of indicated, yeah, I'll be able to move all over the place. Like, I just think that's the nature of the game now. I think these guys, I mean, look at CeeDee Lamb, right? I mean, you look at him and he's all over the place and actually works best from the slot. And I don't know. I just think all these guys, sure, you have specific skill sets. I want Kirk on the slot in the red zone. I think, he knows how to manage that area very well. That's where his strength is. But I think you can also put these guys in other spots. And I think Zay was an example of that, too, for the Jags. I think you could line them up kind of all over the place.
Yeah, but it isn't the conversation we've had with this team for a long time now, especially with draft picks, is, okay, you draft guys, put them in different spots where they're not the best at, and watch what happens.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm Doug Peterson, if I'm Press Taylor, and I have these wide receivers, I'm going to put these wide receivers in the best spot where they can succeed. And to me, that's Christian Kirk in the slot. That's going to be Brian Thomas. I mean, he says he likes, running that fly out of the slot, and that's fine. And maybe you interchange him there every once in a while. But Brian Thomas, you play on the outside. And obviously, Gabe Davis, we know what you do well. Outside, big plays, go routes, go get it.
So basically, Spotrac says this: the release of Zay Jones and Sly frees up $5.2 million of cap space, 9.3 in cash for the Jags in 2024. So if I'm not mistaken, you've got now like some $35 million in cap space here in Jacksonville in 2024. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's great.
Jags got a lot of ways to go if they want to go get like Marshawn Lattimore.
Brent, I'm just saying, man. So first of all, we started the show. We had big news. I thought it could have been a Lattimore thing. I thought a player got in trouble. And then
I guess I oversold that. I didn't know. I
oversold it.
I don't know. I got other people saying, "Wow, did you see this news, Brent?" So like, I think I'm not alone in that. It's a little bit. Again, it's not unreasonable. Just was. I didn't think it would happen this soon. I really did. Brent, I thought they'd hang on with it.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how the chat feels. But I haven't read the.
I got to get on the chat.
I don't have a computer in front of me, but like to me, it's like the first time I ever tried like a fruitcake on Christmas. Like you've had Christmas fruitcake?
Yeah.
They're all the same. Yeah, right? Like I've never had a great one. I've never had a bad one. It's just kind of mundane. That's what you gave me today with the Zay Jones news. I was expecting something either crazy good, Lattimore, or something crazy bad. Oh great, Brian Thomas Jr. is already in trouble. Something like that. You give me Zay Jones. You just gave me a Christmas fruitcake, and I don't care.